Thank you so much. And thank you, Patrick, for that generous donation. The need is great. And I'm going to pivot to a panel where we're going to talk about the partnership and how the Valley United Way is a bridge and how we partner with other organizations. So I'm going to start my first panel with David Morgan, President and CEO of TEAM and Chair of the Valley Council of Health and Human Services, Sharon Kloster, President and CEO of the Valley Community Foundation, and Bill Purcell, President and CEO of the Greater Valley Chamber of Commerce. So thank you all for joining us. And I'm going to start with David. David, talk to us about how the Valley Council for Health and Human Services worked during this pandemic with the other agencies.
Thank you, Karen. I am still just immensely emotionally moved by what we just witnessed. And, you know, you saw a number of organizations there. You know, the Valley Council for Health and Human Services is almost 40 nonprofit health and human services organizations, and you saw a number of them featured there by Mr. Charmel. And you can't talk about the Valley Council for Health and Human Services without talking about the Valley United Way. It simply does not exist. I heard Mr. Charmel talk about the social fabric, and you know, as a Valley Council for Health and Human Services, you know, we often look at the work in the Valley and speak to silos, and you know, it is of our opinion that silos are the undoing of households, you know, and so the more that we can connect with one another strategically, the stronger we can weave with one another, the stronger that social fabric is that Mr. Charmel spoke to. And the backbone to that, the efficacy of that, is the Valley United Way. They've always been serving and leading from behind. They've embodied the art of servant leadership throughout the coronavirus pandemic. And you know, when you see these stories and the impact that Mr. Charmel spoke to, that weaving of the social fabric is made possible by the backbone of the Valley United Way. So I would leave it at this, because I can't even do any more than what Mr. Charmel did as far as speaking to the efficacy of childcare, housing and homelessness, behavioral health, domestic violence, food insecurity, basic needs. I'm going to leave it at this: to all of the compassionate corporations, to all of the compassionate donors and investors, to the Valley United Way, thank you. I hope you saw what a meaningful difference this is making in our Valley communities. And I can't ask you enough and plead enough to your generosity. Please continue to give to the Valley United Way, because as you can see, it's making a significant difference.
Thank you so much, David. Sharon, how did Valley United Way partner differently with your organization?
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I'm very happy to participate in this year's annual meeting for the Valley United Way. I'm just so moved by Patrick Charmel's video and the videos that we saw. And I just want to take this opportunity to congratulate Pat on receiving the Flynn Award, that very prestigious award. As you know, both organizations are philanthropic organizations with the shared mission to build philanthropic dollars to benefit our Valley region. But we both have different means of doing that. And the Valley United Way has those current dollars thanks to their donors and their corporate partners. Both David Kennedy and I have been in the field for quite a long time. Neither of us probably want to say how long. And we've definitely seen some big crises, such as 9/11, Hurricane Sandy, and of course, the tragedy of Sandy Hook. We know that when a crisis hits, people come together looking for ways that they can help. We also know that it helps if there's a shared message and single call to action. And it's not a time to pull people in different directions, asking them to figure out where to give their dollars. It made perfect sense for the Community Foundation, the United Way, the Greater Valley Chamber, and the Council for Health and Human Services to pull together in partnership to build the Valley Community COVID-19 Response and Recovery Fund. This partnership has raised nearly $300,000 and granted out already $224,000 to date for COVID response and recovery. And as Patrick mentioned, we're not out of the woods yet. The wave is still going to hit. And to have the Valley United Way as one of the partners at that table is and was instrumental. Just the support that came from your corporate partners and individual donors really demonstrated that inner strength of the Valley United Way family. There is no one better to have as a partner during a crisis than a United Way, and especially the Valley United Way. They know how to mobilize the troops. So they really came through for us.
Thank you, Sharon. And Bill, from the chamber perspective, what were you hearing from businesses during the crisis, with the crisis that continues?
Yes. First, I'm also proud to serve with you, Karen, and Mike as a director. But when people ask how our business community has responded, I use 4 words: resilience, ingenuity, generosity, and compassion. And to the credit of this community, if we flash back to last March of 2020, when the governor ordered a shutdown, our manufacturing community was the first to mobilize. They were all determined to be essential. Implemented safety measures, the first to implement safety measures. Many pivoted to produce badly needed PPE. Our non-essential office employees invested heavily in remote technology to keep their people employed, right? The jobs is the best form of a social safety. And our senior care facilities, these frontline caregivers courageously and compassionately at considerable risk to themselves and their families, continued to work each and every day. I'll just say this pandemic has been, and this recession has been uneven. Some sectors of our economy have done just fine. And it's, in fact, many companies have done extremely well. But many others have been devastated by this economy. Unfortunately, we had government support in the form of PPP. 64,000 businesses and nonprofits across the state took advantage of it. But I will say that the numbers were astounding, and Patrick talked about it. Between March 13th and April 13th of last year, 390,000 Connecticut residents filed for unemployment. That's more than three times the 120,000 that lost their jobs during the Great Recession of 2008 to 2010. So we are not out of the woods. Restaurants in particular have been hit. 110,000 restaurants.
Bill, don't give up my next section. Don't give away my next section. And Bill, I want to thank you. I want to thank the 3 of you for coming together. We are a Valley United, and I so appreciate that each organization partners, and thank you for participating, and thank you for the future work you do. And I'm going to turn it over to a panel that I have on a different angle of volunteerism. So if I can bring up my second panel. So on my panel, I have Carolyn Cutanio, board member, as you heard earlier, and chair of Corporate Volunteer Council, Zachary Braca, co-president of the Youth Leadership Program for the Valley United Way, a fellow Seymour resident and soon to be Sacred Heart University student, and Joy DeMarchis, principal of DeMarchis Family Holdings, a board member and chair of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and a member of Women United with me and Carolyn. So thank you 3 for joining me. And Carolyn, I'm going to start with you. Can you just give a quick snippet of what is the Corporate Volunteer Council?
Sure, Karen, thank you. The Corporate Volunteer Council is a group of leaders, or ambassadors, as we like to call them, from many of the corporations in the Valley that want to connect with the Valley community for philanthropy and volunteerism. We meet quarterly to discuss the needs of the community, and in response to those needs, we plan events through which corporate giving and volunteerism will help those needs. For example, through projects like the Harvest House, which provides food and dollars to our 5 local food pantries that feed our Valley residents who suffer from food insecurity.
Thank you, Carolyn. And Zach, so you've been a member of the Youth Leadership Program for a couple of years. What's the key thing that you learned as being part of this program? You got to come off mute for me, Zach. Nope, we're not getting you yet. All right, I'm gonna switch to Joy when we can figure this out. So Joy, Women United, do we have an event going on right now that Bill almost gave away?
We do. It's called Feed the Valley, and it's wonderful. Women United is actually sponsoring it. And so it's really simple. You can support our neighbors and actually support local restaurants. So I think of it as 3 Ds: dine at a participating restaurant, donate online or when the server presents your check, and then help us distribute funds to the 5 local food banks in our area.
And what about your committee on diversity and inclusion, Joy? What do you think about that for the future?
I am so honored to chair this committee. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is so integral to all of our lives. We are a nation, a diverse nation, and United Way Worldwide has set forth that all United Ways across the United States and globally have an anti-racism statement. We're going to have board training, staff training, and we're also going to look at DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, as one of the factors in all of our allocations processes.
Thank you, Joy. Zach, do we get you back? Oh, I don't think we did. Well, Zach is a wonderful example of a youth leader who's going to go on to do great things and has learned a lot, as he and I have talked about, in terms of community giving and leadership qualities. So thank you, Zach, for joining us. Thank you all for your participation. I'm now going to turn it over. It is my pleasure to congratulate Pat Tarasovich as well, and turn it over to Carolyn Cutano, who will lead the award ceremony. So to you, Carolyn. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.